Captain Pritchard died while leading his men from the front. He died too soon, but his leadership from the front came as no surprise to us either. Posthumously awarded the Silver Star, the citation reads in part, with complete disregard for his own safety, he moved across the fire-swept terrain, firing his rifle and throwing hand grenades until he was mortally wounded. By his bold initiative, gallant fighting spirit, and superior leadership, Captain Pritchard inspired his men to successfully continue their attack and defeat a numerically superior enemy force, thereby reflecting great credit upon himself and the Marine Corps while upholding the highest traditions of the United States Naval Service. He gallantly gave his life for his country. One of his Marines, Lance Corporal Mike Massing, wrote, "I served with Captain Pritchard in Vietnam in the battle below Camp Carroll. From the beginning of my tour, I had nothing but the greatest respect for him as a leader and a Marine." Another Marine, Paul J. Harris, writes, "John Pritchard died while out in front of his men, leading his company in a frontal assault against an entrenched NVA force. He was charismatic, courageous, a great leader. He was held in high regard by all his Marines. He died fighting. I was there." Captain Pritchard is buried at Arlington National Cemetery. God rest his soul. We have a lot in common, you and me. We're all baby boomers, and that speaks volumes. Some among us are pushing 70, while others are pulling hard against it. Pushing or pulling, it's safe to say we're all straddling the big 7-0. Age and arthritis notwithstanding, one thing we have in common that we should celebrate this evening is that we are all survivors. So far, anyway. But I'm here to tell you, planning for this reunion has been a sobering experience. As Jimmy Padavina, our point man in the People Search effort, will attest, with each discovery of a deceased instructor or news of the passing of yet another classmate, 12 since our 45th reunion. It gives you pause and it makes you think. Yes, we're all at that age when thoughts of our own longevity cross our minds. The Bible says it's not for us to know how long or short our days will be, but to take comfort in knowing that the God who cares for the birds of the air cares more deeply for us. I'll ask you to please stand and join in singing the Navy hymn and remain standing through the reading of the names. By the way, the words are printed on the back of your book.
Oh, hear us when we cry to thee, come to thee, for those in peril on the sea.
Thy
Richard D. Petkus. George N. Elias. Francis J. Fisher. Jerry M. Lustig. Jack B. Mabe. John M. Mattias. Chester L. McGee. Stephen V. Myslinski. Walter F. Nolan. Cecil R. Perkins. John L. Pritchard. David A. Adams. David J. Barrington. Clifford N. Beckley. Val E. Cushman. David W. Daly. Daniel L. Droog. Johnny Lee Donovan. Linwood J. Farr. Michael P. Floor. Robert D. Freegan. Lancelot Glass, Jr. Paul W. Hinken. John T. Hines. Gerald L. Hoffer. Richard C. Hormel. James D. Howard. James R. Isbell. William H. Jakes, Jr. Ronald E. Kentfield. William G. King, Jr. Howard Drew Larson, Jr. Bruce D. Lockridge. Gordon W. McCabe. James F. Postel. James E. Richardson. Timothy K. Sewell. Gerald D. Spears. Ronald E. Spratt. Paul R. Starnes. Cecil E. Sullivan. Stephen O. Vandal. Earl M. Winehouse, Jr. Ralph A. Westerman, Jr. May they rest in peace.
Amen.
If I got this right, Bob, then we're doing the photo. Is that right? This ends
Taps.
our-
Taps.
Oh, dear.
Taps.
Ours. We offer this prayer in your name. Amen.
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 And if you would please continue standing. Most of my classmates, I'm certain, remember Robert Hinman from Company 1, Section 2. Robert was a corporal in the United States Marine Corps and a proud member of the NAPS class of 1967. While he was not able to join us due to health issues, he did take a song from the official Naval Academy songbook called The Rebel and adapted it to a poem most appropriate for our 50th reunion. In Robert's words, quote, "So I cleaned it up a bit and tried to make it more about remembering those with whom we served and passing the torch on to new generations of Napsters who tried to do their best for their country," end quote. The finished product he titled The Narragansett Rebel, NAPS 1967. I cannot think of a more appropriate way to toast our great class than by reading Robert's poem. We meet on Narragansett Bay, where the waters run cold and clear, and as they resound to our laughter, it seems all our classmates are here. There are ghosts at each of our reunions. We drink in our comrades' eyes, a toast to those who went before us, and hoorah for each Napster who tries. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, Colonel Don Christie, United States Marine Corps retired, the Company 2 company officer from my year at NAPS, was not able to join us at this year's reunion. Many of you who attended our 45th reunion in Bainbridge, Maryland, recall his emotional tribute to Captain Pritchard that touched and inspired us all. Colonel Christie did, however, send along his heartfelt wishes to the NAPS class of 1967 for a successful reunion, as well as a generous donation to help make it so. He also sent along a toast to the NAPS class of 1967 that I would like to read at this time. To all you hardy sailors and Marines, may you always have fair winds and following seas as you continue on life's great journey. And may you and your families continue to enjoy the peace and freedom for which you so courageously devoted your lives. Ladies and gentlemen, please raise your glasses to the Marine we first knew as Captain Christie.
Here, here.
Here, here.
Thank you. Dinner is served.
And my heart goes out to them. I am in awe of the effort that went into this. In no particular order, I'll go around the room. Wally, Bob, Paul, where's Jimmy? Over here. This Jimmy and Kenny.
Bob Gallagher.
And Bob Gallagher. Where's Bob? my new neighbor. Bob and Ellie are our new neighbors in New Jersey. And by the way, Bob, has anyone had a chance to throw your disc into a computer? Yeah? Wait till you see. It's unbelievable. My opening comments on the open mic are about my fellow committee members, and I just, words can't express my gratitude and my admiration for the incredible effort these guys and their brides put into this effort. Now, I'm going to be followed by Mr. Maskalak.
All right.
And then we have a few more people. And the way this works is we have a few people lined up, but once that kind of ebbs, anybody that wants to come up here, and it doesn't need to be a Napster, it could be a Napster's spouse or partner, whatever, whoever. If you have a thought you want to share, an anecdote, a story, a joke, whatever, the mic's open. Okay?
Good job, John.
I'm Dave Maslock, Section 2, First Company. And John just sandbagged me because he said I'd be the third speaker.
Which I'm typical of doing.
I was at the 45th alone. That's how I came to Naps. And, actually, my stepdad and my best friend, we jumped into my dad's car and we drove down straight from Lowell, Mass. And I changed at the gas station down in Port Deposit, my uniform. I was new. Bob Stillwell and I went to boot camp together. And we left boot camp together and we met down in Naps. And great stories. It was great stories. I thought he was a god because of his family history, and his dad was the CEO of the Naval District, and he picked us up at the holding company on base, and it was, wow, this is great stuff. And I figured we were going to have that charmed life from then on. Rude awakening was all these Marines that were down at the Naps. And I remember John, and immediately I knew he was from the Boston area.
Gave it away.
And the memories I have of Naps is mostly on the camaraderie, the friendship, the help, and the bonds that we made, that I made. And John continued to be upfront on all of those things. And I remember when the athletic department from the Naval Academy showed up, and we were in the auditorium, and they were talking about all their sports, and John kind of jumped up and said, "How come you don't have hockey?" The assistant athletic director looked at John and says, "Because we don't have any ice."
And they do today.
Yes, they do.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I can remember the long fall nights, and the dreary rain, the snow, the tough football practices, and some of the incredible people I met. I thought Captain Pritchard was probably one of the best, and one of the best men I met. He lived a life of integrity, and I enjoyed playing football for him. Ken was my roommate, and Mark's master of ceremonies. And what a pair we made. I was from the projects in Lowell, and kind of rough around the edges, and smoked and drank, and no, don't do either now. But we did okay. We did okay. We had constant visitors that wanted to smoke and use my cigarettes. They were in the room.
I didn't smoke.
No, you didn't, but that's okay. I don't think we asked you, did you? Last reunion, our instructor and wrestling coach, Mr. Bash, was here. And I had made weight that Friday for 165.
Ah, the good old days.
So I felt so good about that. Someone had made a run and was making sandwiches and all sorts of stuff. So I went down in his room and ate and ate and ate. Showed up at the Naval Academy and I was 3 pounds overweight. Whoops. So I had to put on a rubber suit, go up into the wrestling loft, and run and wrestle, and I sweated out those 3 pounds, and about 160 pounds of strength and endurance. And when I got on the mat, this guy destroyed me. That was my first introduction. I kind of lived a charmed life during high school because of mentors I had. You know, they saw something in me that I couldn't see. Navy saw something in me that I couldn't see. NAPS gave me the opportunity to drag that out of me. And the last semester down there, my college boys were so bad, they said, Dave, you're going to the special class. We're going to teach you how to take the college board. That's all I did the last semester, is study how to take the college board. And it worked. My math went up 200 points, my English went up 150. And I ended up at the Naval Academy, and the first 6 semesters I was on academic probation without an academic board. So I made it, and if it wasn't for NAPS and my friends at NAPS and that fellowship that we have together, and I saw it today, those kids might have been 50 years younger, but they touched my soul. They really did, because they have it all in front of them. And we still have an awful lot in front of us. Thank you.
And usually I'm a clown, but I'm going to be a little serious for a few moments. At NAPS, we were in the basement of Harrison House, and there were 4 of us living in 2 rooms next to each other. It was Mick Murphy, Jim McAfee, Bob Fergine, and myself. Our section leader was Rick Berryhill. 5 of us palled around together, got into trouble together, and became very, very close friends. We went our separate ways and different companies at the Naval Academy. Mick and Jim didn't go forward. Bob Fergine left and went to the West Coast as a petty officer. And Rick and I went on to the Naval Academy. I stayed in touch with Bob Fergine for a while. Now, Bob Fergine is one of those who we have in memory of had passed on. We lost contact. I had gone and visited him in, I think it was our junior year, one of the cruises. I went out and I spent some time with him and his wife. And it was just like yesterday, like we were back at NAPS. The camaraderie was there. But as in all things in life, timing is everything. For whatever reason, we lost touch with each other. And 40 years later, getting ready for our 45th reunion, I was on the committee with these guys and we started hunting people down. And we found out that Bob Fergine had in fact passed. But we found out, or at least I found out, about his life. He had left NAPS, gone to the West Coast, was involved in the Forrestal fire, went on to become a naval aviator, flew for the Navy, retired as a lieutenant commander, and then was transferred as a civilian to Patuxent River. Simultaneous with that, I was in the Navy, got out of the Navy, went through my life, had children, my son joined the Navy and was living in Pax River while we were trying to hunt down Bob Fergine, who was also living in Pax River. Could never track him down until after the fact. So for 3 years, I was going down to Pax River to visit my son, hunting for Bob Fergine, who was probably a mile away from us, and we didn't know it. Thankfully, we were able to pass that on to his daughter just prior to our 45th reunion, and we were able to tell him firsthand, or tell her firsthand, what a great guy he was, and what a great sailor he was. So, timing was everything. If things were different, if we had done things a little bit differently, maybe we would have wound up in the same bar together, or went to church, the same church together, down in Pax River, but it never happened. He was a truly good guy, and those of you who remember him, he was a very funny guy. That's one of the things that I enjoyed so much about the 45th reunion, and now the 50th reunion, was being tasked by Commandant Capra to go out and call these people that Jimmy and Ken, through their software searches, would find phone numbers of people who were potentially our classmates. And we had to call them and say, hey, how are you doing? You may not remember me, but I was your classmate at NAPS. What? I never went to NAPS. Oh, sorry. Never mind. I will tell you a quick funny story about Val Cushman, who has also passed. He was on my list this time to track him down, and we've tried on several occasions to get hold of him, and luckily as it was, I was able to get him to pick up the phone, and I said, Val Cushman? And he said, yeah. And I'm going to edit this. This is Bob Gallagher. We were in the same section together at NAPS. Oh! You blankety blank? You were a crazy blankety blank. What the blank are you doing? I said, I'm trying to get you to come to our reunion. Well, all things aside, he said, well, I'm recovering. I just got over a bout with cancer, and I'm feeling really good. And if things continue away, I'm going to see if I can make it, because I'd really like to see you guys again. But you know what? You really were a blankety. I said, Val, thanks a lot. You made my night. But all of this is what makes what we did and what we continue to do so much fun, because reaching out to guys that we spent that 9 months with, and if you think back on it, 9 months is a very short period of time, but the bonds seem to be everlasting. And there are guys that you see after 45 years, and it's like nothing, no time has transpired. Like you saw them 2 weeks ago, and the bond is still there and still as strong. And I love all you guys, and I love seeing you, and thank you all for coming.
Next up, if he's willing, Steve Harris.
Johnny, while Steve's coming up, my wife wanted to say that 9 months is a short time unless you're pregnant.
It's okay. Hey, Dutch, give it a shot.
There you go. That's my man.
So what happened? I kind of
So I'm Ben Holland, for those that don't know me. Probably most of you, because I'm embarrassed to say that before I came here, John called me a week ago and said, in case we're desperate for speakers, maybe you could say something.
and I thought I was supposed to talk about anecdotal things that we had done at NAPS, which, you know, and I sent John an email back. I'll read it to you just so you know. I have it up, so all I have to do is open my phone today. Because there's something very important there. I said, "Hi John, great to hear from you, and I'm looking forward to our reunion. I will try to come up with some relevant story to tell. I'm racking what's left of my memory. Don't know what I'll come up with. Yes, I've now outlived the statute of limitations, so I can tell any story. Because most of us, in one way or another, I think at that point, probably have outlived the statute of limitations. So, I have so many fond memories of steps going down to Haverty Grace, the coming back from Fiddler's Green, not able to walk a straight line. There's a lot of shenanigans that went on a green. I don't know what green it was, the 13th green was it, or the 9th green, on the way back from the greens back to Naps. That I won't talk about because they're not funny now, you know, when I look back on it. When I look back on it, I'm a little embarrassed that a lot of that stuff happened, you know. I'm 71, by the way. My 71-year-old brain operates a little bit differently than that 20-year-old corporal in the Marine Corps brain worked. And what was funny back then is now disgusting. So, I'm not going to talk about those things. Other than tell you I'm disgusted with myself for some of the things I've done. So I said, you know, I sat there and I talked to her and I said, what the hell am I going to talk about? I don't, you know, I can't remember anything and blah, 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 and so forth and so on. And she said, well, why don't you talk about your first impressions of NAPS? Wow. You know, I have to tell you that when I came there, I was Lance Corporal, okay? I just come from Camp Lejeune, and before that, Camp Pendleton. I lived in a barracks with, I mean, a single room, half the size of this room, well, maybe a third the size of this room, with about 50 or 60 other sweaty, smelly guys who farted and snored. And we were supposed to sleep, right? And you know, and there was I think we called it a head, you know, with like 40 toilets in it. And no, there's not even a privacy shield, nothing. No door, not even nothing. When you went in there, you were just, you know, you walk in, and a shower is the same way, you know, it's about, it could have been a gas chamber. So anyway, and I came to Tomin. I lived in Tomin, and which is, there's Harrison House and there was Tomin, and I walked into this bedroom. This room. There were 3 beds in it. I had 2 roommates, and we had our own bathroom, you know, and we had our own shower. And all of a sudden, I go from what I just described to sharing a shower and a private bathroom with 2 other guys. It was glorious. It was heaven. You know, I never wanted to leave. So that was my first impression, and it stayed that way throughout the whole thing. You know, everybody's talked well about Captain Fisher, and I will too, because he was certainly a tremendous man. But he's the first guy that ever fried me. Yeah, well, you know, whether it was deservedly so or not is questionable. From my point of view, it's questionable. Not his. So, you know, I went to the cruise and I looked. That's our yearbook. Okay, the cruise is our yearbook, and so I went to the cruise and so I was trying to remember things, and I'm a numbers guy, okay? I took the SAT 3 times because I absolutely had to take the SAT 3 times at Naval Academy. But my math score on 3 consecutive SATs was 800. Okay? It was the verbal score. In fact, the last 2 months I was at NAPS, they pulled me out of all the math, they pulled me out of all of the physics, they pulled me out of the chemistry courses. And Dennis Howard, I don't know if any of you remember that, and Mike Zelinsky. I mean, it was like 2-on-1, shoving words like perspicacious and indefatigable and, you know, things like that down my throat until I actually learned what they meant, and I could spell them. So, you know, bless their hearts, they're the reason that I made it into the Naval Academy. I graduated. I had a mediocre John, and my paths crossed a couple of times. John kept skyrocketing up, and I kept kind of floating along. But you know, those 2 instructors were godsends for me, and they're the reason I made it to the Naval Academy, simply because I know what perspicacious means. And I can not only tell you, I can tell you the noun and the adjective and the verb. You know, translation of all those things. So, but when I was looking in the cruise, I came across page 114, and that's where this started. I'm a numbers guy, so I remember pages when I look at something. And I counted them. There were 110 today on the slide. And, you know, I'm bad on names. Captain, what's his name? He had 109 of us going to the Naval Academy. We had 110 graduates according to that page. So I don't know what happened between when we graduated and when we went to the Naval Academy.
Dutch, we had one individual who graduated from NAPS that went to the academy but did not take the oath of office.
Wow. Holy smokes. So
How do you know that?
yeah. Who was it?
I can't remember. I'm a numbers guy, not a name guy.
So, and, you know, frankly, I started looking at all the names of those guys, and you know, Paul Cuddy and John Condon and blah, 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 and I can remember about 10 out of 100. And I'm embarrassed by that. So, I don't know if we'll have enough time tonight, but I'd like all of you, you know, and I'd like to meet all of you. If you haven't met me yet, please come and let me know that, you know, that I don't remember anybody.
Oh, God.
So I wrote down a couple of things here, and I've kind of lost track of what all that is. I think it's been long enough. So I'm quitting. Nice job.
Yeah.
Always trying to get a Section 8 so you can get the hell out of the military. And we didn't resemble that, did we, Mike? You know, those guys, Al Holbach. We got 6 of us here tonight, by the way. Paul Cuddy, a few of the very special guys that were there. Kellogg was the commandant of Section 8, and I remember him well, and because he was a Marine, of course, and Johnny Donovan, who we called Sunshine, because he had the perfect smile of an Irishman, and they used to walk around in their combat boots and their skivvies, you know, and talk to Marines, you sailors, you know, get back. You know, we didn't understand a thing what they were saying. But anyhow, so we're going around there showing the rooms. It was like we had that at Bancroft Hall, except the halls were a little bit wider, you know, but this didn't even translate. They showed us, they said, yeah, this is our refrigerator and stuff like that. I was like, refrigerator! So I immediately went back to a time and we had an advantage up in Harrison. The hall, up the road a bit. We were very close to the golf course where there was the caddy shack had a great feature, and that was a beer machine. So at any given time, it might be a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night, or it could even be a Thursday or Friday night going into it. The special time was when it was winter, because we would take up a donation and go down, and we were fidgeting for dimes because it took 2 dimes to get a can of beer, right? And
it took dimes.
the good news was the pillowcases were strong in those days, so we sent a couple of guys out, and with all the times we could muster in all of that house that night, and they'd go down and they'd come back, and through the snow or whatever, you know, the wind and everything, they come back, and Section 8 had a really good spot because we're at the top, and the gutter was right there, so the snow was that deep in the gutter, right? So who needed a refrigerator? We had it right there. We put it outside the window. We had brewskis sitting there home, and all day long we'd get into craziness. It was all because of Cuddy.
I knew he was going to say that.
We had some wonderful times, and we all went to DC and ran back and forth and took the buses, and we stayed at the Soldiers, Sailors, and Airmen's Club, remember, for $1.50 a night. And God bless the ladies who used to come there. It was like a USO. And they would feed us, right? We come back, we're starving. We don't have enough money, right? Because we had to go out and buy some brewskis in DC, right? And we didn't have the money for that. And so, there was so many of those stories that happened. And of course, we all loved NAPS, and we loved it was our shipmates that made everything, including the Marines. Yes, you do, Kelly. And God bless every one of you guys for coming. I'm so sorry I'm coming back for the 45th, but I'm so happy to be here and still be able to stand up and talk. And I just hope we're going to be back for the 100th. Are we going to make it? You know, I don't know. But I'm so proud. I'm so proud of the Napsters today. They have no idea, because it was so far away from where we were. We were the pioneers for the Napsters, and there were pioneers before us, but when we saw the stats today, and we're like, whoa. Absolutely. Yeah, that was us. I don't know. I just love it. It's great to see all of you. I really appreciate it.
Good job, Mike.
Guys in Tomin remember this. Originally, when we got all started at the very beginning of the academic year, My room was all the way on the bottom, off from the mess hall. And does anybody remember Mac McCarthy, machinist mate second class? So he lasted one day. So Mac and I and one other fellow, and honest to God, I have racked my brain trying to remember his name, and I can't. But Mac and that other guy, and he was a third class petty officer, radarman, I think. Both of them lasted one day. And on the hierarchy, rank-wise, Mac was the senior, I was number 2 by date of rank, and then the other fellow was number 3. So both of those guys left the next day. I thought it was me. But Captain Pritchard assured me it wasn't. And he said, now you're the battalion commander. So I'm in this room all by myself, and it's this big-ass room. I don't know if anybody remembers it. If you came in the front door at Tome Inn and went to the right, okay, down that long hall, it was like a suite. And I'm hearing echoes of my own voice. So then, Ron Kenfield got appointed as my number 2, and doggone it, I'm looking right at him. The number 3 guy, he was the adjutant. And if I go into the yearbook, I can pull it out. In any event, now it's the 3 of us. And Ron Kenfield, let me go there for a minute. Does anybody disagree? Was he not one of the most incredible athletes you've ever?
Absolutely, sure.
I mean, anything. Freaking guy threw the javelin. And
John?
really winged it.
John,
Yeah, Bob.
can I tell you something about
Sure.
Kenfield? I had the privilege of playing lacrosse with some of you guys, a game that I never heard of before, but played 1 year at Naps and 2 at the academy. And my proudest moment was when my shoes scored 3 goals against Washington College. The problem is, just as we were going out, it was an away game, and Coach Perkins says, "Capra, give Kenfield your shoes." He forgot his.
That again spurs another reminder. Ron never heard the word lacrosse in his life before. Really? He took up lacrosse at prep school and became an overnight legend. Absolutely. I mean, and basketball poured it in from everywhere. Baseball, like I said, he threw the freaking javelin. I mean, the guy was unbelievable. He was not only, though, a phenomenal athlete, he was one of the nicest, best buds you ever wanted to be around. One of the greatest guys I've ever known in my life. So, he also was exploratory. Ron was a night person. And so one night, he comes back into this suite that we had down there, and he says, "We got to get out of here." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "I've found new quarters for us." And I said, "Really?" I said, "In this building." He said, "Oh yeah." And I said, "So where?" He said, "Come with me." Now, does anybody remember where we went?
To the penthouse.
The penthouse. And it had been sealed off. And he somehow got through that seal, removed the door or whatever, and went up and found, you know, I mean, it was like heaven. And it was 3 bedrooms with then a common bathroom, Dave and Ben, you know, a shared bathroom and shower. Oh my God. But we each had our own little room. And it was way up at the very top and off to the right of Tome Inn. Tome Inn, for the guests that are here, Tome Inn was this, it was an inn. I mean, it had a restaurant on the first floor. And by the way, if you don't know, there was Bainbridge Naval Base, which was a World War II installation. My father went through boot camp there, and my father-in-law, Patty's dad, went through boot camp there. And then there were ACE schools there, radar school, radio school, I don't know, whatever.
Wave boot camp?
And the first ever nuke school. Wave spook. Right on. Right on. That's right. I remember that.
Right,
So-
that's around, right.
But adjacent, outside the gate, right up abutting the property, was this closed down boys elite prep school back in the day, turn of the last century. And the Navy bought it, surrounded it, and incorporated it into the base, and that became the prep school. And I think I said it earlier in some earlier remarks, I can never forget walking over and up over that hill on my way to report and literally stopping and going, oh, it was so beautiful. So we had this beautiful place that consisted of the school building with the dome and all that, and then these two inns. And Tome Inn was uglier than, I will say, Harrison House, I have to admit. Harrison House, if you snoop back, it was handsomer. It was, Tome Inn was like all over the place. But it was more intricate, and it had the penthouse. And so Ron moved us up into the penthouse. And I wish Ron Kenfield could have made it this trip. He made it to the 45th, but Ron Kenfield routinely used my room. I would be away a lot, and that's where Ron Kenfield brought his lady. Yeah, I mean, that's what was going on in Tome Inn. And I accepted no fees. But I did ask him to clean the sheets. And that was our life. We were teammates in so many ways, and you just took care of one another. And in my case, I was going to BWI, wearing my uniform, and Cuddy, you'll get a kick out of this, flying half price, which was $18 from BWI to Logan Airport. I went home almost every weekend, and Kenfield moved in. Anyhow, just a random thought that some of the other comments just now, particularly yours, reminded me of. Hey, John.
First thing I learned at the NAPS visit today was that I don't think they do things like that anymore. But I will give you a brief summary of that particular event. This was just prior to the NAPS Army-Navy football game. And so we decided that we were going to raid the MAPS campus, which was at Fort Belvoir. And so we come together. There was a bunch of people there that would take on that. Al Holbeck, Norm Stephanie.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to keep it.
Yeah. There's other people. Throw your hands up. There's other people. Oh, I'm sorry, Mark, right? Ken? Ken was in on it. So what we basically did, and actually Captain Chrissy was aware of this and signed off on it. Gotta say.
Remember who they are?
I had no knowledge. I had no knowledge of this. My wife
So anyway, so what we did, so in the middle of the night, we all got in a Navy vehicle and we drove to Fort Belvoir, got on the base, and headed for the MAPS campus. And the first thing we did, we saw these big, huge MAPS school sign, stopped the side of the road, got the bolt cutters out, grabbed the sign. So the sign was the first thing we grabbed. And then headed up into the barracks area and surprised the watch who was on duty. And actually last night, Ken showed up with the watch the thing that the guard was wearing. I haven't seen that thing in 50 years. He happened to be writing a letter at the time to his girlfriend, and one of the guys grabs a pen, finishes the letter for the guy. Your boyfriend has just been kidnapped by the Naps people, and we did take took the guard with us for a short ride in the Navy vehicle. Took him down the road, gave him a quarter to call the base back, and so we headed on back. And that was really only just half the story, because we all got back to Naps, and then probably around 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, the guards on duty started yelling out, "The Maps is here, Maps is here." Well, they came back for a retaliatory raid, and one person outsmarted him, and I do believe it was Sadler James that actually did this.
Yeah.
When the word got spread around, so they had come in through Port Deposit, and so Sadler goes down and pulls the wires out of their cars so they couldn't get away. And ultimately, if you look in the yearbook, you will see probably about 14 or 15 Maps guys that were ultimately captured and held prisoner until the officers finally worked it out. But it was truly, again, I don't think that they still do stuff like that
And
today.
what happened to their heads, Paul?
But yes.
What did you do to their heads?
Oh, yes. Right. I always remember Dick Kramer. For you guests that may not remember Dick or ever met him, he was a big, tough Marine. I'll never forget, like seeing Kramer walking down the street with an army guy in a headlock like that. But anyway, yes, that was a summary of the Maps raid.
The Marines led the recon on it all. They did a great job. And when we went in there that night, we knew what we were going to do. And when they got the guy who was on watch, we threw him in the back of the pickup and threw a tarp on him. And one of the Marines said, if he moves, hit him with this. And the guy never moved. He thought we broke out of the brig on the base. And we're taking a prisoner, I swear to God. It was a funny story. And not only that, but we decorated a little bit when we were there. We had to paint a lot on their sidewalks and a few messages and things like that. We did a little more than just take the sign. So they were quite embarrassed when we left. Never got us back. Never got us back. We outfoxed them that year.
We did outfox them. Unfortunately, I think they did win the football game.
Other than that. All it does. And the officers in there were like, you guys should have known that. No, you should have known it. Way to go.
Thank you, that's it.
Hey, Mark, wasn't there I forget if it was you or Al told us the premise for how you got on base.
The premise for getting on base was that we were a Navy burial detail. We were picking up someone, and so there was no questions asked. They said, "Oh, we're so sorry," and let us write it.
Out of the battalion before I went to Vietnam in Camp Pendleton, and Ben Holland and I, we were talking about this, and they said, "Hey, you've done meritorious promotions. Would you like to go up to this board?" I said, "What's that?" Just a dumb, I've been in 6 months. So there's 3 lieutenants from the academy, and they said, "Are you interested in going to the Naps prep school?" I said, "What is it?" And they said, "Well, it's to go to Annapolis." I said, "Well, I know from school and high school, Annapolis is the capital of Maryland, but what else?" He said, "Do you remember the Army-Navy game?" And I said, "Yeah, I used to root for Army." Okay, wrong thing to say, but anyway, so then they said, okay, boom, so I said, all right, I said, I was gonna do this NESET program when I signed up. That was, for those ladies that don't know, it was, you do a year, you make E4, and then they gave you a full college ride and paid you your rank and promoted you as you went along. So really, it was a good deal. So I said, well, that's kind of what I had in mind. And they said, well, you can do that. You know, you'll be over in Vietnam for 13 months, or you can take this NAPS thing and you'll be over for 4 months. And I went, well, if I'm going to be an officer, I've got to learn how to make a decision. Yeah, I'll take it. So anyway, that's it. So I took the test, boom, boom, boom. I get to Vietnam. In Vietnam, I was in a combat MP battalion, and so basically I worked at night, patrolling and stuff. Some of these guys that were did a lot more than I did. And since I was only there 4 months, I didn't get a chance to get thrown into the grunts, which usually the Marine Corps did. They formed you up for something, trained you for a year, stuck you over and filtered you wherever they needed you. But anyway, so we were allowed to drink at noon. Because there was only one guy on it every third bunker. But at night we had to have double bunker duty. And you were only allowed 2 beers because they put formaldehyde in the beer to preserve it. It sounds gross, but it really got you high. So that's why you had 2 beers. So I'm back in my bunker about 2 o'clock, trying to sober up. And in walks my lieutenant. He says, Kellogg. Yes, sir. He says, relax, sit down. They lost your test to the prep school. Well, that doesn't sound good. That sounds like 13 months to me. He says, no, I got another test. You're going to take the test. Right now? So as he handed it to me, and I spent the first 5 minutes trying to focus on the first question, he took it away from me and he says, just sit down here and I'll answer the question. I'll do it. I'll read the question, you answer it. Yes, sir. So he reads the first question, I answered something. Read the second question, answered something. Give me that. He says, I tell you what, I'll just ask the questions, you answer. And I know when he did that, and he went, oh, this guy's dumber than hell. And I swear to God, he just filled it out so I got an A or whatever I needed to get in. And God bless him, he didn't make it back, from Vietnam. But I got in, but this is the fun part that everybody can relate to. You land in El Toro after you come back from overseas and you got your bags, and they quick give you your orders, and my orders, of course, were to go to prep school. It didn't say Bainbridge, Maryland. At least I didn't read that. I probably didn't read it.
Marine Barracks, Annapolis.
That's what it said. Marine Barracks, Annapolis. See?
That's where I went.
I didn't know where Annapolis was. But anyway, so I come in and I quick go home to Ohio, dump my stuff, and then I'm sitting there, okay, now I gotta get a ticket. I got a ticket here to go wherever I want. Should I go to Nap, or should I go to Baltimore, or should I go to Washington? Well, we didn't have a map. We didn't have Google. I don't know where the hell Annapolis was. And it was Bainbridge anyway, so it didn't make any difference. So I went to Washington. So now I get there, I go, okay, now how do I find this place? So I opened up my orders, and it said, signed, you're going to report to this Secretary of Navy. Got to the white pages. Navy Department. I kid you not. Secretary of Navy Department. Hey, this is Lance Corporal Kellogg. I just got in from Vietnam. Can I speak to the Secretary of the Navy? What do you want to talk to him about, Corporal? Well, I don't know where, he signed my order, sir. I don't know where I'm supposed to go. But I could just see him all in the office. Oh, you got to be here this. George, you know where the Bainbridge is. Come here, explain it. So they explained it to me. I'm sure they laughed for months, but anyway, that was. So that's how I found my way there via the bus. But one thing I'd just like to say about these get-togethers is, 50 years, or 45 or 40 when we did them, it's hard to remember who kept going with us through the academy and who didn't. And I swear we have as many guys that didn't go all the way. And it's such a pleasure to meet, again, those of us, you know, that didn't go all the way. Because even at the academy, when we do our reunions, we have guys that were in our companies that never graduated and they come to all the reunions. So you don't realize, those of you who do come that didn't graduate with us, how important it is to see you again and renew the acquaintances. But anyway, thanks.
I'm Wayne Peters, for those of you who may not know who I am. And
Talk to Dutch.
I just want to give a shout out to the spouses that are here. I know Kenny Marks and Julie and Gail and I, we knew one another from New Jersey. And Gail and Julie both went to, well, at the time it was Glasgow State College, now Rowan University. We stayed with these gals and for 46 years, we've been married. But it was a Navy career for both Ken and me. And there are others of you here, I'm sure, who experienced, at least peripherally, what we experienced as folks in the Navy. And it's really important to recognize the support that I have gotten personally from my wife, 3 children, many moves and things that we went through. But dragging her down here, I don't know any people, but neither do I. So it'll work out okay. But she's been terrific coming to the reunion, 45. We didn't make the 45 of NAPS. I was teaching school at the time, as a matter of fact, and so I didn't want to leave my students. But I served and retired again in 2001. So I was 30 years and then 6 months retired and came. So had a lot of experience in the Navy and enjoyed it tremendously. But starting through NAPS was just a lucky break, and I really appreciate it. I appreciate my bride and any of the rest of you who have stood by us through that whole time. Thank you. Thanks. We had a red Volkswagen Bug, and Gail and her best friend lived in New Jersey, about 60 miles away. I introduced Tony to Gail's best friend. They have been married longer than we have. Tony did not get into the academy with us because he didn't pass the physical. He came back and went the next year with the congressional. He got in there and he was older than his company officer. He said, Tony married Barb. They're still married. And when we were on our honeymoon, Tony was still in the Navy. He was down at in Puerto Rico, and we flew over. We went to St. Thomas for our honeymoon and flew over to Ponce and met up with Tony and Barbara. They are still married, and I tried to convince him to come here this year, but he's in Texas, and I don't know what they're up to. But if you remember Tony, he was instrumental in us staying together because he gave us ride back and forth. Oh. Yeah, he was in Section 5.
I'm going to tell one quick story at our dinner table tonight.
And you don't know a quick story.
Wayne and I, this marriage ain't going to last. But anyway, Wayne and I were reliving the fact we both lived in New Jersey. We were only about 50, I was a little further from you. You were only about 50 miles from home. I might have been 60 miles from home. And we weren't supposed to hitchhike, but that became the best way to get around, you know, cheapest and the fastest, really. And I would, there were, as we got later into the year, and I got a little bolder about this, there were times when, you know, I'd leave after the last class, you know, kind of sneak out, get up to Route 40. I went up to have dinner with her and then hitchhike back, try to get back before midnight, before I got stuck on Route 40 in the middle of the dark, which happened one time. So, at any rate, one night, and it was, I think it was a Friday afternoon, and I had left a little earlier than we were supposed to. And of course, you know, you could go outside the gate. I guess you had to have a Liberty. We had to have Liberty Pass. Remember those?
Liberty.
I was only 83, so we had to have Liberty Pass. But you got in the cab there, all you had to do was hold up a saltine cracker and the guys, yeah. They didn't know what, as long as it was rectangular. Anyway, and I never really stuck my thumb out. In those days, it was great. You didn't have to. I mean, you get some salesman wanted some company, and he'd pick you up. And I learned early on to tell the guy where I was getting off. And the reason I learned that lesson was one day I woke up on the New Jersey Turnpike almost to New York, so I had to hitchhike back the other way. One night I was out on, well, there was one, I used to try to hitchhike from the entrance to the highway, 95. You weren't supposed to do that, but I had a state trooper stop and pick me up one time and say, you're not to be doing this. And so, I'm sorry, well, I didn't read that instruction. But anyway, he said, well, where are you going? I said, New Jersey. He said, well, I'm not going that far, but get in, I'll take it. It took me almost up to the Delaware line, I think, before he turned around. God bless him. But anyway, one night, this is my best one. I was on Route 40, and it was pretty sparse in those days. It's really built up now. But some guy had picked me up, and then he had to turn off on a farm road or something. There was really nothing. I think it was a little gas station maybe. And I don't think there was anything on the other three corners. And pretty sparse. And I'm waiting. There's nobody coming. The traffic was really light. There was nothing coming along. So I'm standing there, and I had my AWOL bag sitting down on the ground beside me. And I'm looking down the road, and I see this car coming. Lumbering down the road, and it's getting a little bit closer. It was a very distinctive car. It was Captain Maddox. I wasn't supposed to be out there. I figured so I didn't know what to do. I mean, I couldn't run. So I'm thinking on my feet. I turned around and started talking. I waited until the car. I really didn't hear the car go by my left. That's about it. I didn't drink in those days, so that was as bad as I got.